Hello, I welcome you back as always. It's a pleasure to have you back. Za'el here. I'm pretty sure you've heard the saying, everything happens for a reason. I'm not usually big on sayings, because I don't like to think in absolutes and I don't like to generalize, because even when a general rule applies 99% of the time, there are always circumstances. There are always exceptions. There is always a but or many. It is also quite possible that you may think that this sentence falls into what we would call empty positivity, or idioms from which you cannot derive practical and realistic value. My observation, from the broadest possible point of view, is that in general, yes, everything happens for a reason. Everything has a reason for being. It can be to expand your consciousness, to live new experiences, to learn, to become strong. Although, as an unpopular opinion, I would venture to say that it may not necessarily be for something like that, because I tend to think that the source, being the engine or the core that animates everything and works through you, whatever density you are in, does not always have to follow a logical chain of thoughts and a coherent intention to what you, today, here, interpret as logical or coherent. Not like thinking, I'm bored, I want to experience something new. I feel that belongs to a level not so high up, where you still have awareness of yourself, whether it's in the between life or at very high densities, where however little there is the concept of a you, or even perceiving yourself as a collective, for example, the point is that it's still to some extent there. So I do tend to think that, being that source is that which you really are, that which animates you, that which gives you life and self-awareness, which has no beginning and no end, sometimes it may not follow logical patterns or something carefully and strategically calculated. And this is a very difficult concept for me to express, because how could it be that source, being technically above those densities and what we call between life, not follow a strategically laid out plan with full intention and logic, when in those densities there is? Because those densities or states of consciousness, with their laws and rules, their logic and their coherence, we perceive them as such from that idea that was born in the first instance. Although here I am no longer expressing how I really believe it, because a linear vision already enters, which would not apply. But going back to something not so complex, and being aware that we create the reality we live based on who we are, on what forms us, with the logical perception that we do have right now, I would say that everything could happen for a reason, yes, and furthermore, not for one, but for thousands of potential reasons. Now, leaving aside what we may have decided to experience in this life that we now perceive from above, because from that point of view there are those kinds of reasons, in this case I'm talking about something much more practical and palpable, that could change your experience completely from your current linear point of view. From my own point of view or my own experience, and speaking first of something totally visible and recognizable at first glance, whatever horrible experiences you may have had, have led to a succession of events in your life that have taken you down different paths that, perhaps, you would not have experienced had it not been for those experiences. And those paths need not have been all roses and flowers thereafter. They have most likely been filled with other experiences, both good and bad, that have shaped your story. All those experiences, as we have discussed, enrich the soul, if you want to call it that, which could even imagine other timelines or other realities in which the path has been different, and therefore create such realities, which also enrich it. But I would like to remind you that, from another point of view, you are creating your path in real time. All the time, your destiny is being determined by who you are now and your perception of things, and especially your present, of course. Everything is already in the ether, everything exists, and all possibilities are already there. Therefore, things or events do not only have a meaning or purpose from this point of view, but can have as many potential purposes, goals or meanings as your mind, you, is capable of imagining. By this I am not saying that you always take it for granted, or that you take it as a foregone conclusion, that an event is happening because you just decide it is happening. That, to me, is a bit of burying your head in the sand or not really wanting to be aware of your reality, although it's all debatable. What I mean is that, for example, when a good event for you is happening, it could be a sign of many good things, but it could also be paving the way for bad things, and all of that is possible. You need to focus on what you want, and how what is happening now or what has already happened may be lining things up to get you to that destination. Although the mere fact that incredibly good things are happening to you is an indication that your frequency might be on the right track. Keep it up. But it also happens with bad things. It's quite common to tend to fall into thinking that if things are going badly now and doors are closing, it means you're missing out on the possibilities of living what you'd like to live. And while we may be a frequency match to that situation at that time, if you keep focusing on what you really want and watch your thoughts, your state of mind, your vibration, your frequency will tend to maintain a higher and higher base or dominant state in you, despite what may eventually happen, as is normal in life. The importance of words, verbalized or not, and as I said earlier, is immense. In this case, the meaning you give to those thoughts that arise when facing a present adversity or problem are determining the path you will follow in your timeline, because your way of perceiving things ultimately determines who you are. And what you are, you manifest. Especially if fear is the predominant emotion in those ideas. So every time 3 doors slam shut in front of you, you must first think that no truly worthwhile path on that planet is easy. Oh dear, here I am the one who has generalized. Well, let's say it's a general rule. But what is certain is that these events open up practically infinite possibilities that exist out there, somewhere, and that might be telling you that that other door you see in the distance is better. Yes, that grimy old door full of thorns and discomfort. It may be that going through that door will make you suffer, make you cry, make you have a very hard time. But do you really want to reach that goal you have in mind? Then consider whether it might be worth taking that other door. You may find that the way you wanted to go in the beginning, things wouldn't have made as much sense or would have been less than ideal. Or maybe you discover that it was even totally necessary to get there and you just didn't realize it. When you see a half-finished building site, you find a pile of rubble. Falling earth, dirt, broken bricks, and you even feel a sense of danger when you're on it, as an unsecured beam or some of the debris could fall on you. Everything is ugly and undecorated and unpainted, and you get dirty just by going in there and moving around. There are no doors or windows, and everything looks unsafe and even half-finished, or abandoned. As if it leads nowhere. But to see things just like that is not only sad, but it doesn't make sense, since several things are bound to happen eventually. It may be that the building site will come to nothing, yes, but one day it will cease to hold your attention and will eventually dissolve, remaining as just another experience that is not part of your present actively producing all those sensations, but simply as something that has formed you. It may happen that this work that was going nowhere collapses to make way for a new one, but in that case you will find yourself again amidst rubble, dangers, and uncomfortable sensations. And it can also happen, and this for me is the most important thing, that what are now broken bricks and poorly secured beams end up becoming just the house you were looking for. Don't judge the possibilities of having or not having what you want based on the discomfort of the work you are observing today. A house is not born from nothing, it needs to be built. And to do so, it often needs to go through a phase of uncertainty and insecurity. The work can even fall apart when it was about to be completed. That just means that it will have to go on a bit longer. I know you will be pleased to hear this, although I would like you to never again depend on an outsider to tell you what I am about to tell you in order for you to trust yourself. If you needed it, this is your sign. Yes, it could all be happening for a reason. It makes sense. But it's up to you alone to find that meaning. How could this situation be moving things along to make what you want happen? Could it be more convenient now, or at the end of this process, than it was before? It is not empty positivity. The possible meaning you find in what you are experiencing now will gradually define and shape that reality you seek. With enough persistence, attention, and strength, that reality will be forming. Remember that in lower densities it requires greater constancy and time of attention to bring certain things into existence, especially when they fall outside of what the rules of that realm dictate in theory. Do not be consumed by your thoughts, find meaning, move proactively towards what you want, and don't give up. Za'el of error.